Good morning. Welcome to our design thinking workshop. I'm so excited that you are joining us today. My name is Joanna Bull, and I am the experiential learning consultant. So to start off, just share with a partner in class on a scale of cat, how are you feeling today? I'm feeling a little bit like number 5 and number 3 combined. We're going to start off in a good way with a land acknowledgement. We affirm that we are all treaty people and acknowledge that the York Region District School Board is located on the lands of 2 treaties. These treaties have been signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the First Nation of the Williams Treaties, who are the Mississaugas of Alderville, Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Skoog Island, and the Chippewas of Beausoleil, Rama, and Georgina Island, who is our closest neighbor and partner in education. To honor this agreement, we will take up our responsibility to be respectful of their traditions, knowledge, and inherent rights as sovereign nations. We will respect their relationships with these lands and recognize that our connection to this land is through the continued relationship with these First Nations. And we acknowledge our shared responsibility to respect and care for the land and the waters for future generations. I'd like to introduce you to an Indigenous inventor. So this is David Petit, and he's one of the early inventors of wireless ad hoc network or wireless mesh technology. And that enables all of our cell phones to work today. Can you imagine if we didn't have this technology? He's a member of the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Tribe and the founder of the Native American Intellectual Property Enterprise Council, which is a nonprofit organization helping Native American inventors and communities around the country. And he has over 50 US invention patents. I'd also like to introduce you to Mary Golda Ross, who was a Native American engineer, and she was a member of the Cherokee tribe. She worked at NASA on top classified, top secret projects, including space flight, satellites, and space travel. At the time that she was working at NASA, she was the only woman and the only Native American on a team of 40 engineers. Among many other projects, she works on studies related to satellite missions and the effect of underwater explosions on submarines and re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. So we're here today to go through a design thinking workshop. And this is a workshop where you are going to be inventors and designers. And we're going to be doing that through what we call the engineering design thinking process. So your learning goals and success criteria for today are, today I'm learning about the phases of the design thinking process, and I am applying the first 4 phases of the design thinking process. I will know I'm successful if I can understand and apply the phases. Phase number 1 is question and problem. Phase number 2 is to empathize. Phase number 3 is define and research. And phase number 4 is to ideate. That's as far as we're going to get today in our design thinking workshop. But phase 5 is to prototype and build, which you will be doing through the Little Inventors Challenge, and to improve and reflect. We are going to be doing some improving and reflecting today, but it's not going to be coming after our prototyping. is going to be coming after we ideate. So why do we have a process like the design thinking process? And does it lead from one area or one phase into another? We have this process so that we have a method to follow when we are creating what we call a solution. It does not have to go in this exact order. Sometimes we question and problem, and then we do some research, and then we question and problem again. And then we build some empathy. And then maybe we define and research some more. So even though it looks like a circle, we can jump in and out of the different phases at any time that we need to. So to get us started, we are going to watch a video, and some of you might be familiar with the video or at least the book that we're going to be watching. So we're going to spend 10 minutes watching this video called Rosie Revere Engineer. And during the video, I'd like you to pay attention to Rosie as a designer and what she actually creates for her great aunt. All right, are we ready? Let's learn about Rosie. So the first question or problem that Rosie had to solve was, what did her great Aunt Rose want? So I have a Mentimeter here. And teachers, if you'd like to go to the code 81712-711 when you go to www.menti.com, we can type in the answers. So what does great Aunt Rose want? Does she want a cat? Does she want to fly? Or does she want more hugs? She wants to fly. That's correct. And it's important that we know what the person that we're designing for wants. All of our answers coming in are correct. Great Aunt Rose wants to fly. And what do we know about great Aunt Rose? So in the Mentimeter, there's a space to add your answers. What do we know about great Aunt Rose? What are some facts we know about her? What information was shared? She used to make airplanes. She used to make airplanes. That's right. She wants to fly. Is there anything else that we know about her? She flies airplanes. Well, we also know that she's Rosie's great aunt. She used to be an inventor. She was an inspiration. She's creative, responsible, and hardworking. She's Rosie's oldest relative. She's old. Is there anything else that we know about her? She's a grandma. She is very creative. She's nice. She's smart. She's optimistic. Thank you so much for all of your answers. So when we look at the design thinking process, what steps did Rosie skip? What steps do we think she skipped? And on the Mentimeter, the next slide has all of the steps or the phases laid out. So when she started, did she ask a question or notice a problem? Did she build any empathy by learning any additional information about her great-great aunt? Did she do any research on the topic? Did she ideate by going into designing? Did she prototype and build by putting together some sort of flying device? Did she improve and reflect by revisiting the plans and making changes? What do we think? What steps in the design thinking process do you think Rosie skipped? So some people think that she skipped empathizing. And there's answers there for defining and research. Defining and research seems to be ahead right now. So with Rosie's process, she realized that her great-great aunt wanted to fly, and she went right into prototyping and building. And then her and her aunt, great-great aunt, did some improving and reflecting together. So Rosie skipped the empathy phase and she skipped the defining and research phase. And we're going to go through all of those phases today and talk about why they're important in our design thinking process. So just take a moment and consider what the impact is of her missing those steps. I'm going to put a timer on for 1 minute so that you can have a conversation with a classmate, or you can just sit and think, or you can write down what you think the impact of her missing steps is. And the next question for you to either think about or talk to a classmate about or write about is, could her outcome have been different if she went through all of the steps? What do you think? We have a 1 minute timer again for you to consider the question. And if at any point you would like to ask any questions or share your thoughts, there is a bit.ly that is showing on the screen. It is bit.ly/Little Inventors Qs, and the capitalization is important. But that takes you to a Google form, and you can ask me questions or you can share your thoughts and ideas. So we are going to move into building empathy. So building empathy is the ability to understand a person. We can build empathy by interviewing a person and listening to their stories. And listening is all capitalized because oftentimes when we're talking to people, we're waiting to be able to say what we want to say next. But when we're building empathy, we're really asking questions and we're listening to their stories in order to understand. We're putting all of the focus on the other person because we want to understand their stories and their points of view. We can also build empathy for a person or a group of people through doing research about them. We can read and we can watch videos. And we would do those things if we don't have a person that we can interview in order to learn more about them. So what other ways can you think of to build empathy? Just take a moment and think. So we are going to do something called creating a persona. A persona is based on a person that can be real or fictitious, which means not real, that an inventor uses when they are designing a prototype. Why do we create a persona? To understand that person very well so that you can design a solution to solve their specific problems. So if great Aunt Rosie wanted to hike through the mountains, building a plane or a flying device would not have been the right solution for her. If great Aunt Rosie had told, great Aunt Rose had told Rosie that what she really wanted was to be able to breathe underwater, then designing a flying device would not have been the right thing for her. So we really want to know what the person that we're designing for wants. So here we are going to design a persona for someone that we've met. We're going to design for great Aunt Rose. So the problem that we've learned about is that great Aunt Rose wants to fly. So as part of creating our persona, we're going to write or draw information about them that we have learned. So what is their name? We know that the name is great Aunt Rose. Where does great Aunt Rose live? If we don't have that information, because great Aunt Rose is a fictitious character, which means she's not a real person. So we can just make up, where do you think she lives? What do you think her age is? What do you think her hobbies are? What is she like and not like? Is there somewhere specific that she wants to fly? And what else should we know about her? So you're going to take these questions and come up with some answers based on what you think about great great Aunt Rose. And then think of 2 or 3 questions that you would have for her if she was a person and you could ask her. And you can also draw a picture. So our timer this time is for 5 minutes to be able to create our persona. Great job with your persona. So, one of the questions that came in on the Google form is, what form does a persona take? So, a persona really can take a digital form or a paper form. And what I mean by that is a persona is just a way for a designer or an inventor to really understand the audience. So we can write that out on paper. We can draw it out so that we have a picture. We can put words around our drawing if we want to, or we can do it all on the computer with images and words. It can take any form that the designer or inventor wants it to take. So if you wanted to do something like show it in 3D, if you wanted to make a plasticine model, or if you wanted to physically build your persona, you could do that. So it's whatever form the designer or inventor would like it to take. And it's really so that during the design process, you always have in your mind who you're designing something for. So let's say we were designing a video game. If we were designing a video game for someone who is 8 years old, would that video game look the same as if it was for someone who was 65 years old? Probably not. Those two different audiences would probably want a different type of video game. And if we were designing a video game for somebody who really, really likes storytelling and games, that kind of video game would look very, very different from someone who wanted a video game that was really fast action. So when we're designing a solution, we want to think about who we're actually designing that for. But if you have any other questions about personas, please put them into the Google form. So we now have an idea of who we're designing for. Maybe you did it in words, maybe you did it in pictures, maybe you were speaking to a classmate. But now we're going to do a little bit of defining and researching. So what we know about Great Aunt Rosie is that she wants to fly. But one thing maybe you haven't considered is, how does she want to fly, or where does she want to fly? Maybe Great Aunt Rosie wants to travel to outer space and visit planets that we don't even know about yet. Maybe Great Aunt Rosie wants to see animals in the African savanna, and maybe she wants to fly on a helicopter. Or maybe Great Aunt Rosie doesn't want to fly on a typical plane or a typical type of flying machine. Maybe Great Aunt Rosie wants to travel around the world in a hot air balloon. Or maybe Great Aunt Rosie really wants to travel and fly through the water in a submarine. Or maybe Great Aunt Rosie wants to fly in a way that we haven't even invented yet or thought of. So this is a chance to add some more information to your persona. What is missing right now about Great Aunt Rosie and how she wants to fly and where she wants to fly to? That's important information to know because it'll impact what you design for her. So we're going to take 2 minutes to add to our ideas. I'm so excited about what you're designing. If you would like to share it in the Google form and let us know where great great Aunt Rosie wants to fly, please do so. Now, I've decided that great great Aunt Rosie would like to fly to space and visit planets far, far away. So, what I've written here is what we call a how might we statement. And a how might we statement helps you and group members or a partner, if you're working with other people, understand what the problem is that you're solving. So, how might we help great great Aunt Rose to fly to space and visit planets far away? So, not just visit the moon or not just visit Mars, but planets far away. How far away? I don't know. So, when you think about everything that you've written, just take a moment and consider what your how might we statement would be. What would you write out to tell other people? And now that we've done all of that, it's time to do some research. So, research during your Little Inventors design thinking project will take lots of different forms. You might have research that you're conducting in class. You might be reading articles or watching videos. You might be talking to people. But because we're in a timed workshop right now, you might not have that opportunity, but you are going to get 5 minutes to do some research, which could be just talking to a classmate about what you've come up with. It could be, if you have a computer with you, looking up information on your computer about what you would like to learn about. So it's completely up to you and the way that your classroom is set up, how you're going to use this 5 minutes. But this 5 minutes is for whatever it is that you need to learn or discuss. If great great Aunt Rosie is flying to planets far, far away, and that's my how might we statement, your how might we statement could be completely different. But maybe I need to talk to a classmate about how I would design for that. Maybe they have some ideas. Maybe they know more about space than I do. So we're going to take 5 minutes for some research. I'm so interested in what you learned about. If you'd like to share, please put it into the Google form. So now we're moving into what we call the ideation phase. And this is where we're going to be sketching out our ideas. So for this, you will need one sheet of paper. I'm going to give everyone a moment to grab their sheet of paper, and then I'm going to show you how to fold your paper. So we're going to take our sheet of paper and we want to fold it in half in a hot dog style. So the longer part we're going to fold. Then when you have it folded in hot dog style, you're going to take it in the middle and fold it over again. So that we end up with 4 different squares. So to show you that again, we're going to have our sheet of paper and we're going to fold it hot dog style. And then once we have it folded hot dog style, we're going to fold it over in the middle. And we're going to be using both sides of this sheet of paper. And we have here what we call a 4 square. So on both sides, we have 4 squares. You can also, if you don't want to fold your paper, just draw it into 4 boxes. If you joined us for our launch session, then you worked with Sylvia and did some sketch noting. So this is what we're going to do right now as part of our ideation. We're going to do some sketches for our design. So thinking about your solution to great Aunt Rose's problem that she wants to fly, and thinking about your how might we statement, now is going to be your chance to actually do some really quick sketches into these boxes. And we are going to do 8 in total. So we're going to be using both sides. On the screen, you'll see what we call the visual alphabet. These are just shapes that can help us with our sketching. Really quick sketches. We're not doing detailed drawings here. And each box, we're only going to sketch for 20 seconds. So moving really quickly through our ideas. So you're going to need something to sketch with. So I have a marker here with me that I'm going to use to sketch. And I'm going to turn the timer on for 20 seconds for the first box. All right, here we go. First box, 20 seconds. Oh, that goes so fast, doesn't it? And that's the whole idea. We want to go really quickly so that we can't get stuck in our own heads with the ideas. Next box, 20 seconds. Box number 3, 20 seconds. Here we go. I don't have very much on my paper. I don't expect you to have very much on your paper either. 20 seconds is not a lot of time. sketch number 4. All right, so now you might have 4 sketches, but you might have only gotten through 1 or 2. So what we're going to do now, if you're ready, is to flip your paper over and we're going to do 4 more. If you're not ready for that, just stay on that first page and you can add to your sketches with these next 20-second rounds, or you can just continue on the same paper. It's completely up to you. So if you have 4 sketches already, flip your paper over and we're going to do 4 more. And if you would rather just go back and finish the ideas you already have, that's okay too. Turning the timer on for 20 seconds. All right, these are our last 3. Timer's on for 20 seconds. Last 2. And the last 1. Okay, so I ended up sketching a couple of things that looked like rocket ships, but also a couple of things that sort of look like spaceships. And that was really, really fast. So it's okay if you're not finished. But what we are going to do next is we're going to share our personas of Great Great Aunt Rose with a partner. And you also want to share the ideas that you just created for what is called your rapid ideation with the same partner. And then ask your partner to pick 2 or 3, if you got that far, ideas that they think solve Great Great Aunt Rose's problem of wanting to fly. So we have a timer for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So we're going to start with just one partner with the timer for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Just one partner shares. And then when the timer is done, I'm going to turn it on again so the next partner can share for a total of 5 minutes. So now we want to switch partners, and we have 2 minutes and 30 seconds again. You've had a chance to share your ideas. So next, we're going to do some reflecting upon the ideation. Think about what you shared and if you got any feedback. And are there parts of those ideas that you can put together to make a new or better idea? Maybe the person that you shared with liked part of one design, but also liked part of another design. Or maybe when you were working, new ideas came to you. So this point in the ideation, we're going to take the best ideas that we had, and we're going to combine them into a new, better idea. Or we're going to take one idea that we really like, and we're going to create one full-size sketch of the idea. So instead of just having 20 seconds to create a sketch, you're going to have a full 3 minutes to create a sketch. And you can do that on a larger sheet of paper if you have one with you. So we're going to put the timer on for 3 minutes, and you're creating one final sketch of your idea. I wish I could see all of your designs. The next step that we're going to do is getting feedback. So this time you're going to take your one final sketch and get some feedback from a partner. We're going to do 30 seconds per partner. And just some things to consider. What does your partner like about the design? And what does your partner think could be improved? So get ready with your partner to share your design and to get some feedback. So I'm turning the timer on for 1 minute. So for about 30 seconds, explain your design to your partner. And then for about 30 seconds, get feedback from them. And then we're going to flip and do it with the other partner. All right, it's time to switch partners. We're doing the exact same thing. The next partner is going to explain their design and then get feedback. So it's very important for us to find out from other people what they think of our creation. And congratulations, you are now finished with the ideation part of this design thinking workshop. We only have a couple of minutes left together, so we do not have time to prototype, but I did want to show you some examples of prototyping. These here are all examples that were made out of cardboard. Prototypes do not need to be cardboard. They can be designed in anything that you would like them to be designed. You can design them with paper. You can build them with other building materials. It's completely up to you. But because many of you have been already designing with cardboard, I wanted to show you some different types of prototypes. None of these are prototypes for our challenge. They're just examples of what you could prototype. So you'll notice that we have a little prototype of a bicycle. We have a prototype of a handheld game. We have a prototype of a little flying device, a robot prototype. We even have a cell phone prototype with some paper that's designed to look like what the screens would look like in the app. We have prototypes of chairs and then a robotic hand prototype. So Rosie collected different materials to build her prototypes. What materials can you think of to make your prototype? What do you have in the classroom or at home for you to use? I'm going to put a timer on for a minute, and here you can just make a list. You can talk to a partner, or you can doodle different materials that you have that you could use to prototype. If you'd like to share any of those in the Google form, I'm very interested in what you came up with to prototype. So remember, at any point in the design thinking process, you can revisit a phase. Even when you get all the way to your prototype, if you realize you need to learn something else, you can go back to define and research. If you realize that you'd like to speak again to the person that you were talking to or do more research in order to build more empathy, you can do that at any point. And there's always time to improve and reflect. So part of our improving and reflecting process is to ask ourselves questions. And here we have a couple of questions to be able to think about what we actually worked on. So I just noticed that my camera is covering this dice. So I'm going to turn off my video. And this is a process called dice roller. So here, if you had a dice in class, you could roll a dice, or you can use an online dice roller. And here I just have a video of a dice. So I'm going to click on the play button, and wherever it stops, that's the question that you're going to either reflect on your own or answer to a partner. And I'm going to stop it now. So we have number 1. Did I consider alternative solutions? So did you consider alternative solutions in your design? Take a moment and either answer that question for yourself or share it with a partner. Let's do one more. And I'm going to stop it now. Number 3, what was my biggest challenge and how did I solve it? So take a moment to think about that for yourself or to share it with a partner. So that is the end of our design thinking workshop. What you just went through is called a design sprint. Thank you so much for participating. I'm now going to take a moment to introduce you to the York Region District School Board Little Inventors Challenges that your teachers will be presenting to you. So one of the challenges that we have is the Deep Space Food Challenge. The Deep Space Food Challenge is reinventing food. They need solutions for people to travel to space while eating yummy food. This is a challenge that's actually put on by the Canadian Space Agency and NASA. So what can you invent that requires minimal resources such as water, energy, and materials? And what might you invent to make sure people have yummy food in space? And we hope that you join us next week to learn from our special guest who's going to be talking about working at the Canadian Space Agency and food in space. The next challenge is the Great Lakes Challenge. The Great Lakes hold over 20% of the world's surface freshwater and provide drinking water for millions of people and support billion-dollar economies and are the foundation of the region's ecosystem. And they are facing a multitude of threats, including toxic algae blooms, climate change, and plastic pollution that are putting them at risk. What might you invent to protect the Great Lakes? And then the last YRDSB Little Inventors Challenge is on climate change. Many people think of climate change as something that might happen in the future, but its effects are already beginning to impact people's lives. What could you invent to stop climate breakdown and better protect our planet? How might you invent a more sustainable future? Thank you so much for joining today's design thinking workshop to learn about the phases. We can't wait to see you in June during our showcase to see what you have put forward in order to solve the YRDSB Little Inventors Challenge.